Today, we got our first set of content for the Project Black Flag playtest from Kobold Press, and I'm going to take a look at the PDF. I'd love for you to join me. Let's roll. Hey friends, I'm Brian at Jacoby, and today we're going to take a look at the first playtest packet from Kobold Press for Project Black Flag. This arrived earlier today, and I'm pretty excited to take a look through it. So, we'll get right to it. But first, if you're not signed up for the playtest, check the video description down below, and there will be a link there to the Kobold Press blog where you can sign up to receive this content in your very own inbox. Also, I am thinking about putting together a group of folks who might be interested in playtesting this together on live streams and such. So if that's of interest to you, then leave a comment in the comments box below, or you can reach out to me by email, hopefully via the magic of video editing. My email address will have appeared right here, brian@jacoby.com. You can drop me an email, let me know that you're interested, and we'll see what we can work out. So let's flip my screen around here. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Project Black Flag Playtest Packet number 1. So this document contains the character creation rules for the first Core Fantasy Roleplaying Playtest Packet. Core Fantasy Roleplaying in brackets because they are probably workshopping that name, is my guess. So Project Black Flag, this has been in the works, I think, since summer last year. I think is something that I heard either in an email or a blog or an interview, something like that. So this has been in the works for a little bit, and then maybe the timeline was a little bit accelerated based on Wizards of the Coast's potential revocation of the Open Gaming License, which kind of shook a few things up for a few companies. So first things first, I actually have it highlighted right here as I scroll up the page here. This content is intended to be backward compatible with 5th edition material, which is a huge relief to me because I have a bookshelf full of Kobold Press 5th edition content that I don't want to have to replace or spend a bunch of time shoehorning into a brand new game system. So knowing that the intention is for this to be backward compatible, I'm happy to read that. And I'm sure from Kobold Press's standpoint, having to go back and republish material that they've already published perhaps 2 or 3 times in another new game system, there are better ways to spend your resources. So good on you, Kobold Press. I love you guys, and I'm looking forward to what this becomes. So here basically just kind of talks about what this packet is, how to use it, etc. So talking about the slight differences between a core fantasy system character and a regular Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition character, and how you would compensate for them if you wanted to have if you wanted to take a 5th edition character and port them directly over to core fantasy role playing as of this packet, or if you want to have 2 characters, one straight from 5th edition and one from the core fantasy system character creation guidelines at the same table, what that means, like what the power difference might be. And then one other note, that race and subrace, that has been replaced by lineage and heritage. So changing some of the terminology that we're using, I think really to be more in line with what it actually represents. So there we go. Introduction. Welcome to the Labyrinth, a fantastical universe of infinite worlds linked by twisting corridors of magic. Here you will find realms like Midgard, Hades, the Dreadful Domains, and homebrew creations tied together by the mysterious will of the maze. These countless worlds rarely resemble one another on the surface, but all have one unifying truth. Heroes shape them. So this is an exciting idea, and it actually harkens back to a Planescape campaign that I had planned. That I think beyond character creation, maybe we played 2 sessions. If we played any sessions, it wasn't very many. Anyway, that's a totally different story. So introduction, like basically saying characters can come from anywhere, and so that's a fun idea of how to pull these characters together into one campaign setting. Then we get into sort of the basic stuff. What is core fantasy role playing? Like, what is this system that's being created? What is a role playing game? Role of the game master, role of the player, roll of the dice, and then other tools that you'll need to play, and what's in this book. So again, sort of setting up the scaffolding that you might expect to find in any starter introductory rule set for somebody who's maybe new to role-playing games or returning to it after a long period of time, something like that. Just kind of setting up the basic boundaries of, here's what this thing is, here's how you can think about it, here are the tools that you need to play. So what's in this book? So Chapter 1, Character Creation. That is primarily what this first PDF that we've received is going to be. So we're going to take a look at that. Core fantasy in a nutshell. Again, just kind of talking, like describing what to expect from this game system. So number 1, fantasy worlds have magic. Number 2, heroic adventures. 3, unique locations to explore. 4, power structures and systems. And 5, conflict. So yeah, basically a high fantasy setting with magic, with heroic deeds, with cool, unique locations, and power structures like various kingdoms or guilds or groups, things like that that might be assisting or hindering your progress along your heroic mission. And then, of course, conflict, because without conflict, where's the interest? Character creation, so going step by step through this process. Number 1, creating a character concept. Step 2, choosing a class. So once you have an idea of, like, what is my concept of a character? Then figuring out which class fits best for that vision of what the character is supposed to be. The level, what are we starting at level 1? Are we starting at level 0? What's the starting point? And then setting up hit points and hit dice, proficiency bonuses, stuff like that. Step 3, determine your ability scores. So here talks about the various ways to come up with your ability scores. So either point buy or standard array are listed here. And then obviously tables for the ability score and the modifiers. And step 4, choosing a lineage and a heritage. So figuring out your race, subrace in older parlance idea, choosing a background, and then filling in the blanks. And then this final checklist, just kind of making sure that you have everything that you have to have filled out on your character sheet. Is it all completed? So that is the first 5 pages of this PDF. Really just kind of laying out the framework for what this is, what to expect, and what you need to put your character together. Next page starts getting into talking about gaining levels. So when you are receiving experience points or tracking milestones, like how do you do that? As a dungeon master, what does that mean from a player's perspective? Lineage and heritage. So here's where we talk about what your character looks like. What groups did they grow up with? Elements of a lineage, your age, your size, your speed, and then elements of a heritage are really about alignment, languages. Elements of a heritage, so really kind of talking about what is the art, the folklore, traditions, language, natural environment, architecture of where your character was raised. I think is probably the easiest way to think of it. So getting into our heritages, or lineages rather. So our lineages, in this PDF, we get 3 lineages, and each lineage has 2 heritages. So first up are dwarves. So dwarves, if you're familiar with fantasy role-playing games, you know what dwarves are. They're a pretty standard staple. They're a staple of most role-playing games. So the two heritages that we get for dwarves, first is Fireforge heritage. And so these are dwarves who live underground in volcanic areas and specialize in sort of forging metal items. Some of the cool stuff that you get as a Fireforged dwarf, you get some crafting proficiencies, or a crafting proficiency either in glassblower or smith. So some of the cool stuff that you get here, expert artisan, so you get proficiency with glassblower's tools or smith tools, and then your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make using those chosen tools. Forgecraft, you're resistant to fire damage, which is pretty cool. Friend to elements, so you can read, speak, and write Ignan in addition to your other chosen languages. So right away you get a free language. Reforge, this is pretty cool. Basically you get the mending cantrip for any items that are metal. So if you need to repair a sword or a shield or armor, provided it's metal, then you have a cantrip that'll do that. And languages, so you get you start with common and one additional language. Usually, that's Dwarven or Dwarvish. And then second heritage for dwarves is the Stone heritage. So Stone heritage dwarves, they get Dwarven weapon training, armor training, tool proficiency again. So you get artisan tools, either smith's tools, brewer's supplies, or mason's tools. And then I for quality. Whenever you make an ability check related to the origin of metalwork or masonry, you add your proficiency bonus to the roll. If you have proficiency in a relevant skill or tool, you add double your proficiency bonus to the roll. And then languages, so you get common and one additional language, similar to the Fireforge heritage. So basically 2 languages, and then so basically 2 languages. Elf. So Elf is the second heritage or lineage that we see here, and the 2 heritages are Cloud and Grove. So Cloud heritage elves have Touch of Magic. So they choose 1 school of magic, and they start with a cantrip of their choice from that school. Then when they reach 3rd level, they get 1 first level spell from that same school of magic. And then at 5th level, they get a 3rd level spell from the same school of magic. And so you cast them at their lowest level. And then once you cast one of these spells, you must finish a long rest before you can cast that spell again using this feature. Your spellcasting ability for these spells is Charisma, Intelligence, or Wisdom, which you choose during character creation. So that's pretty cool. World of Wonders, you have proficiency in the Arcana skill. And then languages, you know common and 2 additional languages. Typical creatures of this heritage choose Elvish and Draconic. Grove heritage traits. So these are Grove heritage traits. So basically what we get here is Beast Affinity. So using gestures and sounds, you can communicate with simple ideas with beasts, and you have advantage on checks made to interact with non-hostile beasts. Canopy Walker. You have climbing speed equal to your walking speed. That is pretty fantastic, because at least in some of the games that I've played, climbing can be a tedious element of movement. Elf weapon training and languages, so basic stuff there. Human is the 3rd lineage that we have access to in this PDF, and the 2 heritages that come with the human package nomadic heritage, and cosmopolitan heritage. In the nomadic heritage, you have resiliency, so you get advantage on saves against debilitating weather effects, such as those caused by extreme heat or cold. And when you complete a short rest, you can reduce your exhaustion level by 1. And then once used, you can't reduce your exhaustion level in this way until you complete a long rest. You gain proficiency in survival skill and languages. You know common and 1 additional language. And that's usually a regional language that you'll choose. Cosmopolitan heritage. So here you get street smarts. So while you're in a city or other urban environment, you and your group cannot become lost except by magical means. While you're in such environments, you also can't be surprised except when you are asleep or otherwise incapacitated. So that's a pretty handy trait that you get with this heritage. Being able to avoid surprise is pretty powerful. Worldly wisdom. Whenever you make a check related to understanding the purpose or significance of a building, rite, or object from a culture you aren't familiar with, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll. If you have proficiency in a relevant skill or tool, you add double your proficiency bonus to the roll. And then languages, you get common and 2 additional languages. So those are the lineages and heritages. So here we are at page 9. We're a little more than halfway through this PDF, and we have the basis of what this system is intended to be, the scaffolding of how you create characters, and 3 lineages with 2 heritages for each of those lineages. Backgrounds. So here we just get 2 backgrounds basically. The first one is scholar. So for the scholar background, you get 2 additional languages of your choice, or proficiency with 1 type of tool or vehicle relevant to your field of study, and then an equipment selection that comes with the scholar background. So the scholar talent, you can choose either polyglot, school specialization, or trade skills. And then adventuring motivation basically just kind of tells you why your character might be adventuring. And the soldier background. Soldier background has proficiency with land or water vehicles and 1 tool of your choice. And then equipment selection, and your talent as a soldier. You can choose a talent from armor training, combat casting, or combat conditioning. And then adventuring motivations for soldier characters. All right, so now we get into talents, and talents are basically dictated by your background. So when you choose a background, it gives you a couple of different categories of talents that you might choose from. So we have magical talents like combat casting and elemental savant, mental fortitude, school specialization. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4 magical talents that are listed out here. I'm not going to read too far into these. Martial talents, you get armor training, armored combatant, combat conditioning, or hand-to-hand talent. Technical talents like polyglot, trade skills, and that's it. And that ends our PDF. I was thinking it was 15 pages, but it's actually only 12 pages. So it gives us a brief set of lineages and heritages to assign to our character, and then some backgrounds. So yeah, that is the PDF. So 12 pages, not too terribly long, but it gets us started with the character creation process, and gives us something to come back to to our favorite kobolds to talk about what we like, what we dislike, how things are going with this character creation process. So I'm going to flip back around here to full cam size. So that's it. That's our first PDF from the Project Black Flag offering for the playtest material. If you would like to work together to playtest some of this stuff, leave a comment in the video comments below, or send me an email, brian@jacoby.com, and we'll see if we can schedule some time together. If you enjoyed this content, hit like and subscribe. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. And until we meet again, roll well, my friends.